One of the advantages is that you actually get to understand what other people in the institution are thinking and the problems they're facing, and I think that creates, in a World Cup year, a sense of team in SMU. So I think one advantage is that, and I think if subsequent workshops could have more people in them from a broader faculty sense as well as a broader administrative sense, I think that would also improve the program. I think it's also the case that with those people there, you learn more about how they're thinking and what they think of you, which is actually kind of interesting. So I think, that's one big takeaway that I think is also going to be important as SMU itself is trying to figure out where it goes in 2025. Actually, it's made me realise, I've been a dean for 28 years, on and off, and it made me realise that people think I'm a pretty great guy, and I didn't think so. And they have figured out that if they'd known this at the time, they would have spent more time with me than they actually spent with me. So I think in a certain sense, it increases your mutual self-awareness of what's going on between you and your colleagues, and gets you a greater awareness of, approaching them in different ways than you would have done previously. I mean, one colleague from another department said, and I walk at home through the underground. One colleague said to me, they said, when you walk home, you look terribly serious and terribly urbane, and it's as if we don't want to approach you. And I think it's the realization that I'm actually quite approachable, and I have a wicked sense of humor, amongst other things, that I think they've warmed to it but didn't figure it out before. So from my point of view, I think it's made me understand them better, but I think it's also made them understand me better, particularly with my own colleagues who were in there, but also some of the other people from other departments and from administrative areas. Well, I think the guys who were there, they had two professionals, and those two guys actually taught us a number of coaching principles and coaching approaches, which I think are quite advantageous. Actually, I knew a lot of them before, so I had a curiosity about how they were going to do it, because I've lived with my wife for 40 years, and she is actually a counsellor, psychoanalyst, psychotherapist. So many of the things that they were talking about were things that I had learned from her, but in a different kind of way. And so it was really quite reinforcing. So I think what people would gain from it, and what I gained from it actually, was not just the intellectual curiosity, but some practical ways of doing things that my wife actually taught me. But I used to try and escape from my wife because she used to try and do it at breakfast time every morning. And I didn't particularly want to get hassled at breakfast time. So I took to leaving the office for Warwick or wherever else I was earlier and earlier, so I would avoid being coached before I went to the office. I didn't mind going through it in the evening. But this, I think, was an exercise where they taught you coaching principles, taught you ways to make people at ease, and also teased out of them problems that they had simply by listening. And I remember a colleague of mine in London Business School, who's a very old friend of mine and subsequently became principal at Queen's University of Belfast, George Bain, who said the characteristic of a good dean is to have big ears, not a big mouth. In other words, what he was trying to say is you've got to listen. And one of the things you get from a program like this is you must listen to people. You must not stand there and make speeches, because they don't need it. They've heard any number of speeches in their lives, and they'd much more have a conversation with you where you're trying to interpret what they feel rather than give them a lecture on how brilliant you are.